All right. Well, as you can remember, we were on accounting for overheads before you went home, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I think we you have we had an introduction to that. So mute yourself. Okay. Uh-huh. Okay. Thank you. We had an introduction to that, and we looked at some sample questions also, right? Okay. So let's just try reminding ourselves of what we did. Okay. We said first and foremost, we looked at some key terms such as allocation and apportionment. And we said allocation has to do with sending a whole cost item to various cost centers, whilst apportionment has to do with sharing cost over the various cost centers. Okay, so those are the two major key words or key terms that we will be using often. So just a reminder, do not forget the meaning of these terms. Now, we also said that there may be instances where there may be departments rendering services to other production departments, meaning that you can have production department A, production department B, production department C, and then you may have something like a canteen service. Okay, so basically, the people who are in these various production departments definitely may go hungry. So you are making provision for them. So the service department, which is a canteen department, exists to provide services to them. And we say that at the end of the day, the cost that is being incurred by the canteen department, okay, the cost that is being incurred by the canteen department automatically will have to be shifted to the consumer. You get it? Because at the end of the day, the final burden lies on the consumer. So today, our focus will be on the apportionment of service department costs. Okay, the apportionment of service department costs. So we'll be looking at how to calculate for all these costs and how to share the cost over the various departments. Are you getting me? Okay. All right. So our lesson objectives. By the end of the lesson, the student should be able to explain. Uh, I think Stephanie just joined us. All right. Stephanie, I hope you can hear me. Hello, Stephanie. I hope you can hear me. If you want to talk, just unmute yourself, okay? So that uh yeah, Stephanie. Hello, Stephanie.
Sir.
Okay. We've just started, okay? So I'll go back again for your sake, okay?
Okay.
All right. So as I said earlier, we were on accounting for the overhead before you went home, right? All right. And I said we will be using two keywords under this topic. So just a quick recap. One of the terminologies has to do with allocation. And we said allocation has to do with sending a whole cost item to a cost center. Okay. Whilst apportionment has to do with sharing, of course, among the various cost centers. Okay, so one, you are sending everything to a cost center, whilst the second one, which is apportionment, has to do with you sharing the cost over the various cost centers. You get me? All right. So now our focus for today will be on apportionment of service department costs. And I was saying that in an organization, we have various departments. Okay, we have we may have production department 1, production department 2, production department 3, and we may also have a service department. And we say that the service department exists because of the production department. For instance, canteen department can exist, and that's a service department. Okay, so the service department is there to make sure that those who are in this production department are fed, especially during break time. And we are saying that this food has a cost factor attached to it. And at the end of the day, all this cost that is being incurred by the service department will go or will be borne by the consumer. So we need to calculate for all these costs. Okay, so our focus for today will be on apportioning of service department cost over the various production departments. Okay, when it has to do with this, there are instances where you may have only one service department, okay, in your organization. It may also happen that you may have more than one service department in your organization. Okay, so we'll be looking at how this apportionment can be done. Okay, so these are our objectives for today. By the end of the lesson, the student should be able to, one, explain apportionment of service costs, and then two, you should be able to calculate and apportion service department costs. So please try and get your calculators ready, because we'll be doing some calculations. So get them ready, let them be with you. Okay, all right, so let's move on. This is a sample question before us. This is a sample question before us. Bear in mind that I said earlier that there are instances where we may have two or more service departments in an organization. And I also said that this service department exists because of the production departments. Okay, they exist in order to render service to the production department. There may be instances where a service department may also produce services not only to the production department but to other service departments. Okay, for instance, let's take canteen department. Let's assume we have service department 1 and 2. Okay, service department 1 has to do with providing us with food. That's they render us with canteen services. Okay, and we may also have an instance where we may have another service department which may have to do with maintenance. Okay, you realize that service department 2, which has to do with maintenance, also have employees who have to be fed when it's time to go on break. So service department 1, for instance, is rendering service to production departments, and at the same time service department 2, which is the maintenance department. Okay, so now we say that when it happens that a service department is rendering a service to other service department, how can we calculate for all these things? Okay, there are two major methods that can be used in sharing service department costs. Okay, one, we have the repeated method, and we also have the elimination method. There are other methods, okay, such as the algebra or the algebraic method and the matrix method, but our focus will be on two methods. Okay, that's what your syllabus allows us to look at. That's the repeated method, and then the elimination method. So today our focus will be on using the repeated method to apportion our service department costs. All right. So first and foremost, we would like to look at what the repeated method is, or what it means, or what it is about. Now, under the repeated method, each service department cost is distributed continuously among the departments until it remains insignificant. I'm going over again. Under this method, each service department's cost is distributed continuously among the departments until it remains insignificant. Okay, so for instance, when it happens that our service department one incur a cost of, let's say, $20,000, okay, you must make sure that you share or you apportion the 20 departments across all the production departments and also the other service department until the 20,000 becomes insignificant. And when we said a figure is insignificant, zero is insignificant. You get it? So with that's what we call it repeated method. Okay, you keep on sharing it. You keep on sharing the 20,000 over the various departments unless the 20,000 becomes insignificant. The same applies to any other service department cost that may be given to you. Okay, so bear in mind that as the name goes, repeated, I must continue. Okay, keep sharing the cost over the various departments until the cost becomes insignificant. Okay, now I'll make room for questions on this method, the repeated method. Okay, if you have any question, just unmute yourself and then ask. Okay, yeah. So if there is any question up to where we are, the introduction, you may just unmute yourself and then ask before we start solving the question. Stephanie and Emmanuel, any question now?
No, sir.
No question. Okay. Then let's move on. So I believe you can see an illustration here. Okay. You can see an illustration. Production department costs. For production department X, you can see that they incur an amount of $100,000. For production department Y, they incur $80,000. And for production department Z, they incur a cost of $90,000. So they have three major departments, okay, and these are the costs that has been incurred by those departments. Now, from that same question, the service department cost to be apportioned. Service department cost to be apportioned. For service department one, we have $20,000. And for service department two, we have $15,000. Bear in mind that for apportionment of service department costs, the focus here is on what? The service department. Okay, so when you want to apportion, you go to the service department, look at the cost that has been incurred by the various service departments, then you apportion the costs. Okay. So the focus is on what? The costs that has been incurred by the service department. And here we have $20,000, which has been incurred by service department one, and then $15,000, which has been incurred by service department two. So when it has to do with apportionment, our focus will be on these two costs. Okay. All right. And do not forget the method we are using here. We are using the repeated method. And I said for the repeated method, you must keep on sharing or apportioning the figures until they become insignificant. Okay. All right. So the requirement, they said we should apportion the service department costs taking into consideration the following. Okay. So here again, we have production department, which is X, Y, Z, and we have service department 1 and 2. Okay. So now, what they are telling us is that service department 1, for instance, when we want to apportion the cost that has been incurred by service department 1, which is 20,000, okay, which is 20,000. What we need to do is we need to use these percentages. So for production department X, we have 40%. Service department Y, we have 20%. Production department Z, we have 30%. And then service department 2, we have 10%. So when you want to apportion or share a figure like 20,000, which has been incurred by service department 1, what you have to do is to use these figures to apportion. All right. Now, let's move on to the second one, service department 2. And from the question, we realize that 15,000 has been incurred by service department 2. So now, if you are asked to apportion, which the question is asking us to do, what you have to do is to go back to the question and look at the figures that has been given to you. For production department X, we have 30%, meaning that if you want to apportion 15,000, you only need to calculate for 30% of the 15,000 and then record that in the column of production department X. It's as simple as that. Okay. The same applies to production department Y, which is 25%, production department Z, which is 25%, service department 1, which is 20%. You get me? So that is what the question is asking us to do. Okay. All right. So I told you to get your calculators ready. This is the question, and you will have to start working on it. Okay. But before that, if there is any confusion, if you don't understand what the question is asking you to do, you may ask before we start with the solution. Okay. You may ask before we start with the solution. So if you have any question, just unmute yourself and ask before we start with the solution. Yeah, Aberinga, you came in quite late, but don't worry. You'll catch up with us. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay. So we are just about to start. This is the question before us. Okay. And we are using the repeated method. Okay. Repeated method to solve this question. And we said what it means is that what the repeated method means is that when you've been given a service department cost. So from the illustration here, you can see service department 1, $20,000, service department 2, $15,000. What it means is that you're supposed to use these percentages, okay, to keep sharing these figures until they become insignificant. That's what the repeated method means, okay. So for instance, service department, we have 20,000, and then from here, they said we should use these percentages. So service department 1, we are supposed to use 40% for X, 20% for Y, 30% for Z, and 10% for 2. Okay, so you just have to use these percentages to share the cost that has been incurred by the service department 1, which is 20,000. Okay, and when it comes to 15,000, which is the cost that has been incurred by service department 2, this is the figure that you will use. So you can see service department 2. You can see 30%, 25. So it's as simple as that. Okay, just like ratio. Just keep on, they'll give you the figure, then keep on sharing. That's how it is. Okay. So get your calculator ready and let's move on to the solution. Okay. All right. The solution is here. All right. So first, it is essential to find the total, okay, of the various department costs. It's obvious because they are in percentage, so automatically all will add up to be 100. Okay. So production department X says 40%, Y 20%, Z 30, and then the other service department, which is service department 2, we are supposed to use 10%. Okay. So that is that. And when it comes to the service department 2, okay, as we can see, we are supposed to use 30, 25, 25, and 20. And that is from the question that has been given. You can see 30, 25, 25, 20. Okay. All right. So that is it. The solution. Let's wait for the solution. All right. Can you see the solution? All right. Uh, Emmanuel, if you can see the solution, unmute yourself. I want to hear you. I want to know whether you can see the. Can you see the screen?
Yes, sir, I can.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is how your solution is supposed to look like. Okay. But don't worry, we will go one after. We'll all be doing the calculation together. Okay. We all do the calculation together. So now, I always tell you that when you be given a question, the first thing to do is to write the name of the company. But you realize that from the question given to us, there is no company name given. Okay. There is no company name given. So what you need to do is tell us the method you are using. Okay. The method you are using, apportionment of service department cost using the repeated method. Okay. Then now you need to create these columns, the details, the basis of apportionment, the production departments, and then the service department. Okay. You all agree with me that from the question, they only gave us 3 production departments, which is X, Y, and Z. And then we've been given 2 service departments, which is service department 1 and service department 2. Okay, so in your solution, all this must be made clear. Okay. Now, we said allocation has to do with sending a whole cost item to a cost center. Now, let me go back to the question. You could see from the screen that production department costs were given to us. Okay, was given to us. Production department X, $100,000. Y, $80,000. Z, $90,000. Everything has been given to us. Okay, so it's without struggle. So we just have to send this cost, this whole cost item to our table. That is why we call it allocation, direct allocation. When it comes to the column you've created for basis of apportionment, you are not apportioning anything. We said apportionment has to do with sharing. But here you are not sharing anything. The figure has just been given to you. Okay, so when you come to the basis of apportionment column, you just have to write direct allocation, because they said X incurred $100,000 cost, and this is the $100,000. Y incurred $80,000 cost, and this is the $80,000. Z incurred $90,000, and this is the $90,000 cost. Okay, so that is it. Then now let's go back again to the question. We've been given two service departments, 1 and 2, and then they said service department 1 incurred $20,000 costs, okay, and B incurred, or 2 incurred $50,000 costs. Everything has been given to you. So the same thing, when you get to the solution, you just record it there, 20,000 and 15,000. Okay, so that is that for the first one. Okay, I want to be going step by step. So if you have any question about the table and also the first recording that we did, okay, that's a direct recording. If you have any question with it or you are in doubt, just ask before we move on to the next workings. Okay, so we are on the first one, the allotment, the direct allocation. If you have any question, please, you may unmute yourself and ask. Okay, all right. Any question? All right. So let me ask you, if you don't have any question for me, let me ask before we proceed. Why did we decide to write direct allocation? Okay, why did you decide to write direct allocation and the basis of apportionment? Why did we decide to write direct allocation and the basis of apportionment when it comes to this cost, 100,000, 80,000, 90,000, 20,000, and $15,000? Why did we decide to write direct allocation and the basis of allocation column? Yes, the question is to the class. Anybody who is ready can unmute and then give me the answer. Yes. Emmanuel, unmute yourself and explain. Tell me why we've decided to write direct allocation here. Hello, Emmanuel, unmute yourself and talk.
Sir,
Yeah.
sir, because it's an indirect cost.
Again, you said?
Because it's an indirect cost.
They are all indirect costs, because overhead is a summation of indirect costs.
Okay.
So
Okay.
my question is, earlier on when we were on campus, we learned about basis of apportionment, right? So for instance, when you take canteen service, we said, okay, let me ask you, what's the basis of apportionment for canteen? Canteen cost. What is the basis of apportionment for canteen?
The numbers of employee.
That's it.
Numbers of employee.
Yes, that's it. Numbers of employees. Okay. But we said when it comes to this question, okay, let me go back to the question. You realize that they've given you direct figures. Okay, nobody's asking you to share the production department cost. No. Okay, they've given you direct figures, which is 100,000, 80,000, and 90,000. So when it comes to the solution, you are just repeating the cost that has been sent to these various departments. Okay, that's why we decide to write direct allocation. Okay, direct allocation. That's why we decide to write it here. Okay, you can't decide to write no. That's why earlier on we looked at two major terminologies, allocation and apportionment. And we said allocation has to do with sending a whole course to a cost center, whilst apportionment has to do with sharing. Are you getting me? But you realize that this course, we are not sharing them yet, the production department course. Okay, that is why when it comes to base of apportionment, we decide to write allocation, because they are costs that have been given to us in the question, and we just have to send them directly to the table. Okay, so that's what is happening here. All right, if there is no other question, let's move on to the next one now, which is the requirement of the question. Let's go back to the question. They said we are required to apportion the service department costs taken into consideration. So the requirement again, you are required to apportion, which means sharing. Okay, apportionment means to share. Okay, apportion the service department costs, taking into consideration all this information. So what it means is that when we want to apportion service department one cost, which is 20,000, okay, this is the figures that we will use in sharing the cost. These are the figures. Are you getting it? As you can see, service department one, then you can see 40, 20%, 30%, and then 10%. Okay, then when it comes to service department two, okay, which cost is 15,000, we are going to use 30, 25%, 25%, and then 20%. Okay, so for this kind of question, everything will be given to you. Yours is just to use the percentages to be doing the calculation. That is all. It's as simple as that. Okay, so now what you need to do is you must make it clear that you are about to reapportion service department costs. Okay, so we are going systematically, and do not forget, I said here the focus is on sharing service department costs. And then here we have two major departments. So our focus is going to be on sharing 20,000 and 15,000 respectively. Okay, so we've indicated that we are reapportioning service department costs, which is service department one and service department two. So now let's go on. Service department one, okay, we've been given 40%, 20%, 30%, and then 10%. All this is in the question. Okay, you can see service department one, 40%, 20%, 30, and then 10. Okay, all right. So when you get to basis of apportionment, you just have to state the figures that you are using for the apportionment, or the percentages that you are using. Okay, all right. So take your calculators and let's do this. We are supposed to apportion the cost incurred by service department one, which is 20,000. Okay, 20,000, using the percentages that has been given to us. So now what you have to do is that you go back. We have production department X, and we are supposed to calculate 40% of the service department cost on this production department. So what you have to do is you write your 40%, which is 40 over 100, times 20,000. And the 20,000 is from here, service department what? One. Okay, service department one, which is 20,000. That is what we are supposed to reapportion. Okay, so now do that and then give me the answer. 40% or 40 over 100 times 20,000. What did you get? Anybody who is ready can give me the answer.
800,000.
Are you sure?
So 800,000.
Do the calculation again. You are sharing 20,000.
Okay, sir.
So you are finding 40% of 20,000.
Okay.
Yes. So do the calculation and then give me. Yes. Anybody who's ready can give me the answer. Yeah.
Say 8,000.
All right. It is
8,000.
8,000. Yes, that's it. It's 8,000. You get it? Yeah, Charlie. Are they class? It's 8,000. You get it? So you can see from the solution that under production department X, we have 8,000. I hope that is clear. Aberinga, did you also get 8,000? Or you're not going for your calculator?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right.
Sir, I'm done. I had 8,000.
Okay. All right. That's good. Then let's move on. From the question, we've been given 20% for production department Y. Okay. We've been given 20% for production department Y. And do not forget, we are reapportioning the cost that has been incurred by service department 1, which is $20,000. Okay. That is what we are reapportioning. And I told you earlier that the focus is on reapportioning service department costs. That is what we are doing here, using the repeated method. And we said it has to do with you sharing costs that has been incurred by the service department until it becomes insignificant. Okay? And you know, 0 is insignificant. So you must keep sharing the cost that has been incurred by the service department until your figure becomes insignificant. And for production department Y, we arrive at 8,000, and then service department X, we arrive at 8,000, and then for production department Y, that will be 20 over 100 times 20,000. And when that calculation is done, Emmanuel, I would like you to give me the answer. 20% of 20,000. What did you get? Or Rosalia, are you done with the calculation?
Sir.
All right.
Yes. Sir, I have 4,000.
All right, 4,000. Emmanuel, did you also get that?
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay. So we can now move on. So again, for production department Z, we've been given 30%. Okay, you can see 30%. So that means we are supposed to find 30% of $20,000. Okay, so that will be 30 over 100 times 20,000. Okay. All right. Aberinga, what did you get?
Sir, I had 6,000.
All right. So that's it. 6,000. Okay. That's it. 6,000. Then, meaning we are done with the production department. Now, let's move on to the service department. Do not forget that you are apportioning 20,000. Okay. So the 20,000 must be in what? A bracket. Okay. The 20,000 must be in bracket because that's what you are sharing. Okay. You are sharing the 20,000 here. You calculated 40% of this 20,000 and then you got 8,000. You calculated 20% of this 20,000 and you got 4,000. You calculated 30% of 20,000, you got what? 6,000. So this is the figure you are sharing. Okay, this is the figure you are sharing. So it must be in a bracket. Okay, then now from the question, we are supposed to calculate for 10% of $20,000. Okay, that's for service department 2. Let me go back to the question again. From the question, service department 1 costs, we are supposed to find 10%, okay, of the service department 1 cost, and you can see there 10%. Okay, Service department 1, nil. That is what we are sharing. So it's dash. You get it? So for service department 2, we are supposed to find 10%. Okay, 10% of that. So now let's go back to the solution. When we calculate 10% of 20,000, what are we getting? 10% of 20,000, what are we getting? Yes, who is ready with the answer? Anybody can give me the answer.
2,000.
All right, 2,000.
Sir,
Yes.
sir, 2,000.
All right, so that's it. It's 2,000. So we have from the solution, you can see 2,000 here. Okay, that's it. 2,000 is here. So we are done apportioning service department 1 cost. Okay, which is the 20,000. Please, when you have any question about how we came about the solution, you may ask before we move on to service department 2. If anybody has any question, you may ask before we move on to service department 2. If you have any question, you may ask. All right. If there's no question, then let's move on. So do not forget, I said for repeated method, you must keep on sharing the cost until it becomes insignificant. Okay? All right. So now, what we need to do is to apportion service department 2 cost. Now, you can see that previously we had 15,000. Okay? And then later, when we were reapportioning service department 1 cost, we had 2,000, which was sent to service department 2. Okay? And do not forget, the focus is on reapportioning service departmental costs. Okay? That is what the focus is on here. So now, before we reapportion service department 2 costs, we need to find out all the costs that has been incurred, okay, by service department 2. The first one is 15,000. That's what we are allocated. And then when we were sharing service department 1 cost, we had 2,000. So we must sum up 15,000 and then 2,000. Okay? And when we do that, we will get 17,000. That's how we came about 17,000 here. 15,000 plus 2,000 will give us 17,000. So now we have to reapportion 17,000 because it also falls under the service departmental cost. Okay, so we need to reapportion 17,000 using the figures that has been given to us in the question. So let me go back to the question. Service department 2, for production department X, we have 30. For Y, we have 25%. For Z, we have 25%. And for service department 1, we have 20%. You get it? All right. So this is the percentage that we'll be using to reapportion the figures. Okay, let's go back to our solution. This is the solution. So for basis of apportionment, you just state the percentages: 30, 25, 25, 20. This is what you are using to do the sharing. So you must make it clear. So now, we are supposed for production department X is going to be 30 over 100 times 17,000. 30 over 100 times 17,000. So I would like someone to do that calculation and give us our answer. 30 over 100 times 17,000. What are we getting? Anybody who is with the answer can just unmute and give us the answer. Yeah, anybody who have gotten the answer can unmute and then give us the answer. 30% of $17,000. Yeah, Stephanie.
5,100.
All right, so this is it. 5,100. Okay. Now let's move on to the next one. That's production department S. We're supposed to find 25%, okay, of $17,000. So when that is done, what are we getting? Yes. Aberinga, are you ready with the answer?
Sir,
Yeah.
4,000. Yes, sir. 4,250.
All right. 4,250. So that's that. Okay. Then the same thing. Z, I think it's also 25. So we are getting the same answer. Is that not it? All right. We are getting the same answer, which is
Yes, yes.
4,250. Okay. Now, let's move on to service department 1. Let me go back to the question. In the question, when it has to do with apportioning service department 2 costs, we are supposed to calculate for 20%, okay, of that cost, which will be sent to our service department 1. So you can see here 20%. So let me move back to the solution. 20% of 70,000 will give us 3,400. Is that not it? All right, 3,400. So that is how can we 3,400 has been written here. That's under service department 1. We had 3,400. Okay. All right. And do not forget, we are apportioning 17,000. That is why it is in bracket. Okay, that is what we are sharing. So it is in bracket. Okay. All right. Any question? If you have any question, you may ask before we move on to the next workings. All right, meaning we can proceed. Okay. So do not forget, the rule here is you must keep sharing the figure, or you must keep on reapportioning the figure until it becomes insignificant. Okay. And the focus is on reapportioning service departmental costs. And in the question, we had only 2 service departments, 1 and 2. All right. Whilst reapportioning service departmental costs, okay, for our second department, we realize that we had 3,400 for service department 1. 3,400, meaning we must share this figure also over the various departments. So we've got a new figure, which is 3,400. Okay, so that's the next figure that we will have to reapportion, and this falls under service department 1. So we must go back to the question and then get to know the figures that must be used for the reapportionment. Okay, and that is 40, 20, 30, and 10% respectively. Okay, so now we go back. This falls under service department 1. So you go again, then you write service department 1 using the same percentages. Okay, using the same percentages. No, something. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Ah, oh. All right. So we need to go back again because this course falls under service department 1. Okay, so we need to use the figures that has been given to us to do the apportionment. So you go back again, service department 1. We have 40, 20, 30, and 10. Okay, so that is what we are going to use again. So now it has to be, it has to be 40 over 100 times 3,400. This is what we are reapportioning. I don't want to, you know, come this one. Oh, okay. I don't want to, let me try this one. All right, all right. Let's proceed. So here the focus is on reapportioning 3,400. Okay, using the percentages that has been given to us. So who is with the solution now? Aberinga.
Sir,
Yeah.
sir,
Yes.
you get 1,360.
All right. So that's that for production department X, 1,360. Okay. All right. Let's move on to the second one. So now that will be 20 over 100 times 3,400. Okay. Um, who has gotten the solution for that?
Sir,
Yes. Aberinga.
680.
680. That is it. Okay. Then the next one will be 30 over 100 times 3,400. Stephanie, give me the answer to that. What did you get, Stephanie?
So 1,020.
I hope you are doing the workings. All right. Okay. All right. 1,020. Then the last one, Emmanuel, that will be 10% of 3,400.
So 340.
All right. 340. So we are done with that. Okay. And do not forget, there is another figure which is 340, which falls under service department 2. And you know, 340 is significant. Okay. But the principle here is that you must keep sharing or reapportioning service department costs until they become insignificant. Okay. And yeah, it is. Oh, no, you know, yeah, yeah. Yeah. So you must keep on reapportioning any cost that falls under the service departments until they become insignificant. And 340 is significant, okay? Meaning that you must share that figure also using service department 2. So now 3,400 is in bracket. Who can tell me why 3,400 is in bracket here? Who can tell me why 3,400 is in bracket? Yes, anybody who is ready can just unmute and give me the answer. Why do you think 3,400 is in bracket? Mm-hmm. Yes, Aberinga.
Sir, I'm not sure.
Yeah, say it, I'm listening.
Sir, because that's the one that we are apportioning.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, that's it. That's the reason why it's in bracket. Okay, so you had it correct. That's it. Okay, so now 340 falls under service department 2. So we must reapportion $340 using the percentages that has been given to us. Okay, And you can see for service department 2, the ratios are already here: 30, 25, 25, 20. Okay, service department 2, 30, 25, 25, 20. So that is what we are going to use to do the reapportionment. Okay, all right. So that will be 30 over 100 times 340. 30 over 100 times 340. Okay, so anyone who is ready with the solution can give me the answer. 30 over 100 times 340. Yes, Rosalia. Oh,
Say
no.
100 and
Okay, go on.
102.
102.
2.
All right. Stephanie, what did you get for production department Y? That will be 25 over 100 times 340. Yeah,
85.
85. Okay, automatically, production department Z is also 25%. So that will give us 85. Is that not it? Yes. So the next one, that will be 20% of 340. And that should be for service department 1. Okay, service department 1. When that is that done, Emmanuel, what are we getting?
68.
68. All right. So from our observation, you realize that we are now having a new service department cost again, which is 68. Okay, and 68 is significant, but the rule is that you must keep on reapportioning until the figure becomes insignificant, right? That's the principle under repeated method or the continuous method. That is what we are using here. Okay, so we must reapportion $68 using the next service departmental cost percentages. So we move on. It falls under service department 1. Okay, 68. So we must go service department 1. These are the various percentages: 40, 20, 30, and 10% respectively. Okay, so when that is done for production department X, the workings will be in this form: 40 over 100 times $68. And when that calculation is done, we are getting 27.2. 27.2. That is why it is written here. Then 20% of $68 will give us 13.6. 13.6. Okay. The next one will be 30% of $68. Dodoja, do that calculation and give us a solution. 30% of $68.
20.4.
All right, 20.4. Stephanie, tell me why 68 is in bracket here. Under service department 1, we can see 68 in bracket. Why is it in bracket?
Yeah, because that's what we are using to apportion.
All right, that is what we are sharing. Okay, that's why it's in bracket. So the moment you are sharing a figure, it must be in bracket. Okay, to indicate that that is what you are sharing or that's what you are apportioning. Okay, then Emmanuel, do the last calculation for us. That will be 10% of $68.
So the answer is 6.8.
All right, that's it. 6.8. Now you realize that under service department 2, we had $6.8, as you said, and 6.8 is significant. Okay, so you must reapportion 6.8 again. Okay, you must keep on sharing until the figure becomes insignificant. And here 0 is what? Insignificant. Okay, so you must keep on sharing like that, repeating it. That's what we call it repeated method. You must keep on repeating the process until the figure becomes insignificant. So since 6.8 is significant, we need to reapportion it again. And it falls under service department 2. And we've been given the ratios, okay, or the percentages for reapportionment for service department 2. So we just have to go back, service department 2, and that is 30, 25, 25, and 20% respectively. Okay, that is what we are supposed to use. So we use that for the apportionment. Okay, so service department 2, that will be 30% or 30 over 100 times 6.8. We will get what? $2. Okay, $2. And we'll move on to the next one, which is 25% of 6.8. We are getting 1.7. 1.7 for production department Y. And when we move on to the next one also, it's also 25%. That's production department Z. When that is done, we are getting 1.7. 1.7. Then, who will do the last calculation for us? Anybody with the answer for the last calculation? That's 20% of 6.8.
Say 1.4.
All right, 1.4. 1.4. Okay, 1.4. All right, so we are done. Okay, for service department 2. Now we need to check again whether there is any significant figure under any of the service departments. Okay, yeah, I think there is one. That is for service department 1, we had 1.4. Okay, and one is significant. You get it? One is significant. So we need to reapportion that figure again. We need to do that. So, and this falls under service department 1. And we already know the percentages that are supposed to be used for the reapportionment for the various departments. Okay, so we just move on and write service department 1. Service department 1. Then we use the percentages that has been given to us for the reapportionment. Okay, and when that is done, for production department X, we are getting 0.56. Okay, 0.56. When we move on to the next one, we are getting 0.26. The next one, we are getting 0.42. And then the last one, we are getting 0.14. And 0 is what? Insignificant. So automatically you are done. Okay, because once it is 0, it is insignificant. Okay, so you can confidently say that you are done with the solution for illustration 1. Okay, so that is how the repeated method works. Okay, that is how it works. So if you have any question, you may ask. This is the only example we'll be looking at. If we have 10 minutes more to go. Okay, so this is how the repeated method works or looks like. If you have any question, you may ask. You may ask if there is any question. Yeah, Rosalia, Dodoja, and Emmanuel, any question? All right.
So no question on my side.
No.
Okay. Then,
Send me too.
all right. Then let me go back. Let me just summarize everything so that we can close the class for today. Okay.
Okay, sir.
All right. So, as I said earlier, we were on accounting for overhead before you guys left home. So, there are subtopics that fall under accounting for overhead, and that is what we are looking at. Okay. And then today, our focus was on apportionment of service department costs. Okay, service department costs. That is what the focus is. And we had two objectives. You should be able to explain what apportionment of service costs is, and you should be able to calculate and apportion service departmental costs. Okay, all right. Those were our two objectives. From there, I said that there may be instances where you may be having more than one service department in your organization. Okay, and when that happens, when it happens that you're having more than one service organization, there is a likelihood that one of the service departments or the service departments may be rendering services to each other. Okay, we call it reciprocal services. Okay, so service department 1 may be rendering service to service department 2, and service department 2 may also be rendering service to service department 1. It is known as reciprocal services, and all we are doing here can be seen on page 174 of your textbook. Okay, page 174, reciprocal services. Okay, and I said that there are some methods or there are some means that can be used in calculating for organizations that engage in reciprocal services. Okay, we have four methods. We have the repeated method, we have the elimination method, we have the algebraic method, and we have the matrix method. But your syllabus only permits two of these methods. That is the repeated method and then the elimination method. Okay. And today, that is what we looked at. We looked at the repeated method. And under this method, we said that each service department cost is distributed continuously among the departments until it remains insignificant. Okay, until it remains insignificant, and zero is insignificant. So you must keep on sharing any cost that falls under the service department until they become insignificant. As simple as that. Okay, so from the solution provided, from the illustration, you realize that we had 3 production departments and we had 2 service departments. Okay, and then we've been given how the reapportionment should be done. We've been given some percentages, okay, to help us reapportion service department costs. Okay, so right from here, move on to the solution. Move on to our solution. Okay, and then this is how the solution looked like. And I said an anonymous circumstance is supposed to, in your presentation, the name must come, the method you are using must also come. before the table, okay? But in this instance, we do not have any name of your company. So you must state the method you are using, okay? And that will be apportionment of service department cost using the repeated method, okay? Most often the question will tell you which method to use, okay? Yes, so here we are using the repeated method, and we were able to find a solution to the question that was given to us. And this is how our solution is supposed to look like. Now, take note of this. In some questions, okay, you may be given a clue as to how the apportionment should be done. Sometimes they may say that you should apportion your figures to the nearest $10 or to the nearest whole number. Okay. When it happens like that, it means we are going to earn our workings somewhere here, okay? Because when it has to do with you rounding your figures to the nearest 10, it means that you are not going to have 2, 1.7, 1.7, 1. No, okay? It's to the nearest 10, okay? So you must just round it. So for instance, 6.8, maybe 6.8 is still less. So a figure like this, you wouldn't have 27.2. No, you are going to have 27. Okay, I'm going to have 27. In some instances, they may tell you to the nearest 100. What I'm saying, okay, you can make reference to it on page 174. The solution on page 174 of your terror textbook, okay, says that you are supposed to apportion the figure to the nearest 10. So you realize that the solution they had is, or the figures they had is a little bit different from what we had. It's because of the clue that was given in the question. Okay, so you must take notice of those things. Okay, when they said you should run it to the nearest 10, it means nothing is going to come on top of this. So if, for instance, they said we should apportion this to the nearest 10, what we are going to have here will be what? 100. We are not going to have 100, 102. No. We are not going to have 85 here. No. We are going to have 90. Okay. Here, 90. Then the 68. We are not going to have 68, but rather what? 70. Okay. Yes. So later on, you may go back to your textbook and then solve more examples under the repeated method. Okay. The more you practice, the more you know. So please don't just after here go back and then practice more. God willing, in our next meeting, we will look at the second method, which is the elimination method. Okay, we'll look at the elimination method. So when you go back, you can read on that and then we start trying questions. I believe in our next lesson, we'll look at elimination and overhead absorption, because elimination is very, very simple, just like the repeated method. Okay, so I hope you are all having what do you say? You all have the Google Classroom app on your phone, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The
Yes, sir.
okay. The IT